Hey there, cultists, and welcome to a very special episode of Cult Classics. Hot on the heels of our look at Better Off Dead, we're speaking to one of its main players. She's an actor, a model, an author who starred in such hits as Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Terrorvision, The Last American Virgin, and of course the aforementioned Better Off Dead. In fact, if we were to list everything that she's been involved in, we'd be here all week. It's Diane Franklin.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Not a problem. Thank you for taking the time out to be with us today. How are things where you are? Hope you are feeling healthy and happy.
Yes, it's although I will say, over the winter holiday, it was, I was sick, but now all is good.
So yeah, we'll get right down to it. You've been acting now, I read, since the age of 10. What was your first experience of the profession? Was there a defining moment where it hit you, where you said, I want to be an actor, or did you always have that kind of acting bug?
Well, I always wanted to be an actress. Literally, I knew when I was 4 years old. I knew. And I say that because I'm sure that there's a lot of kids, adults out there who also knew very early what they wanted to do. My parents didn't know anything about the entertainment business. I always, they spoke with a German dialect and an Austrian dialect, and they were like, we don't know what to do with this child who has all this energy and wants to be an actress. They had no idea what was happening, and they were not pushy, but I was very driven. And I think it was because I was raised as an only child. I had a half sister, but she got married like a couple of years after I was born. And so I wasn't raised with a sibling. And I think that because of that, I really there was no internet. I wasn't on the phone, it was about drawing and dancing and singing and acting and watching television, because that's what the medium was then. And I think I just had a very rich creative life. And from that, I really wanted to be an actress. Did I know what that was? Did I know what that meant? Absolutely not. But I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be performing. I know school plays, and I did all the stuff in school. And I just kept showing my parents that I was interested, and I did not let it go. I did not forget. And I also, during that time, I developed a lot of skills. Like learned to play piano. I took ballet. There were no acting classes at that time. People discouraged young people from taking acting class. More and more was how I gained my experience. But then you asked me when I decided to really be an actress. What happened was I started with modeling, and then I did commercials. And I started when I was 10, by the way. So my parents somehow found a way for me to get in. And by the way, there's more details on this in my first book. I have an autobiography of the Last American French exchange babe of the 80s. Unfortunately, for my UK fans, it is just prohibitively expensive to send. Unfortunately, I tried. I just had someone who wanted to buy one of my books, and I think the least is like $120 because it's so expensive. But regardless, I think you can get this one, though. The first book I have on Kindle, so that might be better. But anyway, so when I was 18 years old, I got an extra part in the movie Endless Love. And I always wanted to be an actress, but when I did that film and I played an extra part, Brooke Shields was in the film, and I remember seeing her and thinking, she has it all. Not like she has it all, like jealousy. Like, it was more like she was gentle, she was feminine, and she was innocent. And she kept her innocence, and she was also very sweet. And to me, I was like, well, that's what I would have wanted to be as an actress. I would have wanted to be somebody who was nice and kind, but in the entertainment business, because so often you hear about people being so competitive. I mean, it is competitive business. That's not what it is, but that's part of it. But I felt like the entertainment business can break you. And when I saw her, I thought, well, wow, that's it, and I felt like, I guess I don't have to do it anymore, because there is someone who's done it, and she's done it beautifully. And I remember Franco Zeffirelli working with her, and he was just so kind to her and so gentle with her. And I just was like, wow, like that's it. You know, I don't have to do this anymore. And the funny part about it was I went to bed and I thought, okay, well, if I'm not going to be an actress, what am I going to be? And I had some ideas of things I wanted to do. But the next morning I woke up and I went, I there's I wanted to do it. And I said, you know what? There's room for more than one. There's room for more than one kind or nice actor or somebody who does, you know, who can do that. And I think that that's when I really made the decision to continue and make it my career. And I think that, you know, usually in the teen years, that's when you kind of make a decision what you're going to do in your life. I mean, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, you've been in so many cult hits over the years. Obviously, as I said, it'd be impossible to cover all of them. We'd be here forever. But I'm going to jump straight into your role as Patricia Montelli in 1982's Amityville: The Possession. Now, it was released the same year as your other hit, The Last American Virgin. It was kind of the year of your theatrical debut. So having two movies in cinemas, it must have been a huge buzz at the time.
It was. And I remember, well, there were a couple of things being in that moment. I remember that I, first of all, couldn't believe that I was in two movies coming out. That was highly unusual. Where today, you know, you can be in a lot of movies at the same time because there's so much media out there. But, you know, not as much media was being made then. So I guess it did stand out to people in casting that suddenly there was this girl in the scene. They didn't know where I came from, but suddenly I had a lot of people pushing for me, which was really time I did hit. I had people surrounding me who helped me get noticed. But at the time, I didn't know, like, because I worked on those two films in the same year and they hadn't come out, I didn't know that I was popular yet. Like, I just kept going for auditions and auditions. And it was interesting because after those two films, before those two films, I was not considered for leads at all and could barely get parts. And I think that's really the thing that is so different in a career, is that 1 minute you can be an extra and the next minute you can be the lead. And then once that hits, you better be ready. So all the years that I spent getting ready really paid off because I was not just talent wise ready, but I was emotionally ready. I mean, I was 19 and I was traveling to Czechoslovakia by myself to screen test for Amadeus. Like I was, or 20, like I was traveling back and forth New York and LA by myself as, you know, as a teen or before 21. And I think that's not everybody can do that.
I should just apologise to the listeners or anybody watching. It's breaking up from time to time. It's just one of those things. I'm afraid we have the best connection we can, but hopefully, you know, you'll stick with us. Yeah, I'll confess, Amityville 2 was the first time I saw you in a role personally. And to be honest, I did develop a bit of a crush at the time. So to be fair, it's probably not the best movie to do it, considering the subject matter. Even though it's a follow-up to a classic horror movie, Amityville 2, it hits harder.
I always was surprised when people had crushes on me from that film, because it's not a crush movie.
It's not. I mean, it's really not. And I felt guilty actually saying that. So I apologize for that.
No, I'm glad you're saying it, because I think a lot of people probably feel that way as well. They're like, "What? Oh, I shouldn't be having a crush on this girl." But so I'm interested actually on your perspective, you know? Yeah, like, I mean, you know, if you have a crush on me in that film, that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. But I guess it's because of the context, it gets a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Sometimes you just think, I'm feeling a bit wrong at having a crush here. I mean, obviously the crush went into other movies. It wasn't just that film, but still at that point you just think, really?
Well, I appreciate it, because that film, if you could have a crush on from there, then that's pretty impressive for me. That's impressive.
Well, I mean,
I must have really brought it.
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, it doesn't only contain those supernatural elements, but as I say, it also has darker themes. It's got the child abuse thing. It's got the incest thing. Now, as a young actor going in, how aware were you of just how extreme some of the elements in the script were? And did you have any trepidation accepting the role because of it?
That's a good question. I think because of the script, I knew the script and I knew how the entertainment business worked. I knew that as an actor, I was protected, obviously, and it wasn't going to be handled in a way that wasn't professional. I had done Less American Virgin before. That was a indie film. This one was done by Dino De Laurentiis. It was a little bit, as far as I knew, had more of an established production company at the time. But I wasn't worried about the material because I knew I was also working with seasoned actors. I had Burt Young, Retanya Alda, James Olsen, and I knew that those actors were people that I could trust and rely on. And I also had enough experience that I knew I could handle myself. I looked like I'm 16 in that movie, but I was 20. And not that that's so old, but it's a mature 20. But I felt like I could bring the emotion to that character. And really the most important thing when I did it was, when someone is experiencing that kind of abuse, they don't necessarily, they don't necessarily tell other people. There's embarrassment. They think it's going to go away. They freeze. And I really wanted to bring that part of my intuition into the role. So I had my own agenda, which is interesting because even at that age, I was like, okay, I know what I want to do. And I think that's really important for any actor who's young. When you work on a role, you have to know yourself and you have to know your opinions about things. And when you do, it's almost like, because you're kind of directing yourself, in a way. You're going into this audition and you're bringing it, and the director will tell you what to do that they need, but you have to go in with the strength to play the character. And so I think what's fascinating is when you're telling me this, I realized when I see the film, like I've actually seen it a few years ago, it looks so young. You can't imagine that I wasn't a kid. I was mature enough and ready to play that role, but I will tell you, I didn't know how realistic it was going to be to portrayed. The style at the time in the early 80s was very gritty. Filmmaking was much grittier. So there was a feeling like I knew kind of what it was, but I didn't know. Now when I look back, I go, oh, this is a very good film because it's absolutely gritty and real, and like it's got a spookiness, but it's also because of the abuse. So it doesn't take you out of that world. So it's not just the possession, but I remember obviously The Exorcist really influenced my portrayal of characters, and I actually auditioned for The Exorcist.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was, I think, like 11, and they were looking for 13-year-olds, or I don't know if Linda Blair, how old she was when she did it, but I remember I was a little too young, but I remember auditioning for it, and that movie started everything. And so I think it gave the Amityville II the chance. And I think Amityville II, again, I had no idea people would see it because it was a part 2. I always thought at the time, if people have their money and they go to the theater, they're only going to see part 1 if you have to choose. But who could ever imagine that today you could see every Amityville ever made?
Yeah.
In one night, if you choose,
Yeah, it's actually looked upon. I don't know if you're aware, but it's actually looked upon these days as superior to the first one with James Brolin and Margot Kidder. It's so yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I have heard that, and it makes me feel very proud and very happy because that means the film won't disappear.
Yeah.
I love. I know that I did another Amityville Murders, because a director had seen the film Amityville II when he was 12 years old. And he was so affected by it that when he grew up, he wrote Amityville Murders and asked me then to play the mother in the film, which to me was the most brilliant opportunity and such a compliment to me. I burst into tears when he asked me because it was a dream. I was like, I always wanted to return to Amityville, but how could I do that? And he asked me to play the mother, and now I'm the only actress who's ever played a daughter and a mother in essentially the same story. So my perspective is different. So it's exciting.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, a couple of years later, you returned to horror, albeit with a comedy slant for Terrorvision. Was horror something that you were keen to do, or were you conscious of, say, staying away from doing too much of the same genre back then for fear of being typecast?
At that time, there were people would talk about being typecast, but there were so many different roles that were out. I mean, I went for drama, I went for comedy, and I just auditioned for everything. I auditioned for Flashdance. I mean, there were so many different things. I was screen tested for Karate Kid at of the top 3. It was Elizabeth, myself, and another girl. Everything was happening all at once. These teen movies exploded. I didn't know that wasn't happening in the 70s. All I did was in the 70s, I was auditioning for projects, but the focus was not on teens. But the minute the 80s hit, that's when I got to work a lot because the stories were about teens and they had teens in them. So that was a big difference prior to the 80s, is that a lot of films, they would hire older to play younger. And here I was, 19 in Last American Virgin and a little older in Bill and Ted's. But it is interesting that all those teen films hit. And so that's why when you're saying horror genre, it wasn't even, the horror genre at the time was not something people or actors were necessarily proud of even. They were more like, oh yeah, I did that horror film. It was not like, oh yeah, I do horror. It's like, today it's like, yeah, I do horror and I love horror. It's a whole different association with it. Today, actors who are Oscar nominated people are doing horror. So it is or Oscar winning people. I mean, it's definitely changed. The world has changed, and horror has received a lot more respect because of the imagination and characters and the stories it tells.
Yeah. Well, speaking about the teen movie in the 80s, I'm going to come to arguably what I think is one of the best teen movies out there, and that is Better Off Dead. It's a huge favourite of mine. I'm going to ask, what was that production like? Did it differ from other films that you'd worked on? And what were your overriding memories from it? Was it fun playing Monique?
Absolutely. Wow, that film came out of the blue in the 80s. There were so many films that I auditioned for that were gratuitous, whether they had nudity or whether they were bad language, or there was violence, or there was just a lot of those films out. And I think that was out there because audiences had to, they didn't have it at home. It wasn't on TV really. So you had to pay to go to see these things. So the movie theaters were a place where you could watch things you couldn't really watch on television. So the kids wouldn't see it no matter what, and have fake IDs and, kind of sneak into movie theaters. And that was part of it. Better Off Dead, when I got that script, it had nothing like that in it. It was a pure comedy. It was hilarious. And it was so sweet and innocent, but it was the first time I remember getting a script that I thought, I really want to see this. I want to see this movie even if I'm not in it. And that is, I don't know about John. I don't know how John saw it, but I know Amanda Wiss, we all got together. We were all very amazed by the film. And I actually, I don't know, I also wrote a book about it. again, it's called The Excellent Comedy of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. It just came out 2023. It just came out. Again, available on from my website, signed, but it does cost more. But it is that, from doing research on the film, also, I can tell you that first of all, we had a blast filming it. But my first experience working on it was my first experience actually not working, but getting the script and reading it was such a pleasure. And that audition, when I went in, was such I wanted it so badly, but it was even beyond me. I was like, I love this film. I love the humor. And then when I saw Monique's character in the script, I was like, and I want to play her. And I wasn't originally even seen for her. I think I was seen for Beth. Oh. Or maybe another character, I don't know. But Savage Steve Holland wound up casting me as Monique, and it made me so happy. I screamed. I was so happy. I have to say, it was a breakout role for me because it was a great role model, and I loved the film. And I mean, as an actor, you do a lot of things. Sometimes you like what you do. Sometimes you're not as crazy. Sometimes you just try to, trust the director and the project. I always make sure that no matter what I do, I always bring my best, because that's what it's about. You have to bring the script to the highest level it can be as your character. But Better Off Dead, I am, merci for saying this. It's very nice for me. I love this character.
That's fantastic. I mean, you mentioned it. You're not sure how certain members of the cast saw the movie. I mean, there's been a lot of talk that certain people hated it initially, to the point where they wouldn't sign merch bearing the name.
Well, I'll bring up this. You're very kind for not mentioning the person's name. I will say that person that you're talking about, he wanted the part. He did. I mean, he didn't know maybe how the script was going to come out, but he competed against other people for it. So he did want the part. And when we worked together, we had a blast. We had a great time. And he had a great time too. I think it was just upon watching it, he was still young. He was in his teens. I don't even know what age, but he was younger than all of us, I think. And when you're a young man, when you're like, I don't know, 17, 18, you don't want to look like somebody who's silly. And I think that's what happened. I think he felt like he was being made fun of and it was silly, and he wanted to be seen more as a serious actor. But I will tell you that he was endearing. And I think now he's starting to really see that. And he is, because people keep coming up with merchandise. They want to see him talk about the film, and they realize he's starting to see that this film had depth and value that he couldn't even see ahead of time. So I think we're getting through.
Yeah, I hope so, because I think it's something to be really proud of. As you say, there weren't comedies like that back then.
I mean, I don't know when this episode's airing, but I do know that in January, he is actually doing his first screening of Better Off Dead. Okay, I'll mention John Cusack. Hello. Okay, I'll say it. John Cusack is doing his first performance. He's doing his first screening of Better Off Dead ever this month. In fact, it might even be this week in January in New Jersey. So this is huge, and I'm excited to see what he says. I'm sure they're going to interview him about it, and I hope it's the beginning of doing a lot of more interviews, because I hope that maybe one day we can do a Q&A together. That would make me so happy.
It would make the fans happy as well.
Like to see that, I think it would be great.
Have you watched it recently, by the way?
Not recently. I would say not within maybe a year ago or a little bit more. I don't know if I've seen it recently.
Oh, it still holds up. I love it. I've got a special place in my heart. But for the longest time, I lived on a street next door to a couple of brothers, and they were always singing its praises. And I thought, oh, I'm not sure, but I watched it and I fell in love with it the first time I watched it. It's just it's nothing like I would expect at the time. And I think it's unfair that obviously you've got a lot
Yes.
of teen movies from back then that are still recognized, especially, you know, when you look at the films of John Hughes and that kind of thing, they're
Right.
instantly recognizable. This one seems still like an underrated gem. Now, when you mention it to people, a lot of people haven't heard of it. But if they've heard of it, I would say 90% at least just adore it.
Yes.
And
Well, first of all, you brought up the point. Yes, it's very lovable. It's a love story. It's a comedy. It's got animation, claymation, and every single time you watch it, you laugh. Every time. Like, you think you've watched it enough, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then the other thing I want to say is the fact that you like it in the UK. That means it really hit. Like, that's a big deal because now it translates cultures, you know?
yeah,
And it also has archetypes that never change, you know, like we have all these different characters that people can relate to, like I'm this person, I'm that person. So I'm glad that it's such a compliment that you love the film and that you still found it topical in England, in the UK.
oh, definitely, definitely. I identify with John's character, but I had a couple of friends that they were just Curtis. It was, it was yeah, yeah.
And he had the
It was
best
just,
lines.
oh God, I love the skiing one. Go that way
His
really
character was
fast.
great.
Yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. I was going to say, you actively engage with fans of the movie on social media, not only on your own account, but on the Better Off Dead fan group pages. And over the years, you've been
Yes.
a terrific ambassador
Hi
for the movie.
everybody.
What is it about this one? What is it about this one particular role that you find so endearing? And why do you think it strikes a chord with so many people?
I think it's a feel good movie. You leave it feeling good, so you want to see it again. I think that because the movie was made by Savage Steve Holland, as an animator, he is very in the moment. So what happens is it's not just the story as a whole. You may have heard that story, a guy gets broken up with his girlfriend, loses love, finds love. But the way he tells the story visually, it keeps it interesting. I would say the one thing, and you said to me, like, not everyone's heard about it, that actually in a strange way, like, it kind of hurt the movie, was the title. Because whenever you heard Better Off Dead, a lot of people were turned off immediately because they thought it was a horror film. And they couldn't imagine anything but. So I think, like, I wonder if it had a different title, if it would have had more maybe commercial success.
Yeah.
But I know that Savage, the director, really wanted that title because he thought it was clever. It's a clever title, Are you better off dead? And is he better off dead? It has like double meaning, kind of. But that's the only thing I think. But on the other hand, it's the best kept secret. Like, it's a word of mouth film. Like, you like it, and then you go, I want to tell my friend about this. Like, you're in the know.
I mean, your autobiography, it does refer a great deal to it, so much that it also serves as kind of the Better Off Dead tribute book. Was that planned while you were writing it, or did it occur naturally because you had so many memories? Were you like typing away and then at some point thought, oh, hang on, there's a lot here from this movie, and just roll with it?
No, actually, my first book, I thought, after my first book's the autobiography, and I thought, that's it, I'm done. I did it, and I'm done. And then after that book, I did that in 2012. And then, like, maybe 5 years later, I thought, wait a minute. It occurred to me I had some more to say about Last American Virgin that I didn't. And it was really, really important to write, because I realized that I was the first actress to bring that curly hair look into America's fashion. That trend started from The Last American Virgin, because my character was the first teen actress that guys had a crush on. usually the girl in America at the time would be long blonde hair, blue eyes, and that would be the dream girl. But because my character was dark haired, curly, all of a sudden an entire group of people went curly hair, great. And then I got lead after lead, and people were having in flash dancing, and curly hair came into fashion with like ethnicity, and it just exploded. And I was in it, and I knew when it hit, because for 9 years I had been straightening my hair for auditions, and suddenly people were saying, "Don't do it, don't straighten it." And I'm like, what is happening? Are you kidding me? Like, how is this a thing? So I wrote my second book based on that and the background on that. And if you love Last American Virgin, that book is called The Excellent Curls of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. So there's a following thing. But then another 5 years passed. And when those 5 years passed, I have been doing conventions, signing conventions. And I go, and I used to bring the coat that I had from Better Off Dead. I wore that coat to these conventions, and I let people try them on. And I did this for like years. And people came up to me and said, one guy came up to me and said, it'd be very funny if you put all the people who ever wore the coat in a book. And that's what gave me the idea to write my third book, because now what happened was I saw so many fans who love the film. I mean, I meet so many people at conventions. So I was like, wow, they would love this. And it was kind of a tribute for them, for the love of that film. For 2 years, I researched and did interviews and got rights and did the whole shebang because of the love of this film, and because of the love of the fans for the film. So it made me very happy when it was done. I was like, look, whether people get it or not, it doesn't matter. The fact that there are people who love this film, this is the special features that everyone's been waiting for that never happened. There were never any in-depth things behind the scenes. And I contacted Savage Steve Holland, the writer-director. He gave me so much information. God bless him. He's the best. He's a great director and a great person. I adore him. And we all adored him. Everybody loved Savage. I think he was the most beloved director I've ever seen. Everybody loved Savage. He was so sweet and so nice. He was very young. We all everybody helped him. He was 24. I was like 23, I think. And he was, the older director, right? But he was great. So we all had a great time. And I really thought, when I write this book, I wanted people to feel what it was like being there. And I interviewed a bunch of different people who were in the film. I even interviewed Curtis, and he was so nice, and it was just fun. So I actually have an actual video of like what we're doing now with Curtis. And it was just, we went back in time. I mean, we just were like, oh my gosh, remember that? That was so funny. But you don't usually get that. So I don't know. It just is interesting. But yes, no, that book did not come out of the first book. Although the first book I thought I was done. But now this one has so much more information in it. And there were things I didn't even know about Better Off Dead that I found out. So.
Oh, wow. Is writing something you enjoy doing?
It's great. It's like, I mean, if you're a Better Off Dead fan, it's an essential. It's essential. Like, you will go. I mean, I've only gotten great reviews because it has information that has never been in it before. And I wrote it, and each character has their moment in the sun. Like I did chapters on Ricky and the mom, and the music I did chapters on. And so, yeah, it was fantastic. Great.
Well, what I'll do, I was going to say, I'll put a link in the description. So anybody that wants to check out any of your books will be able to do that.
Good, but tell them it's going to be more money. That's what the thing is. It's going to be 120. So unfortunately, because they go to my site and it's like, but that's domestic, because it's just crazy. So save your money because it's worth it, and I'll sign it. I'll send it to you signed. So it's worth it. I was
going to say, I think I'll be saving up. So, yeah.
Well, the other thing too, maybe you can get it cheaper on Amazon, not signed. Yeah, you could probably, do you guys get Amazon?
We do get Amazon, but speaking personally, I'd rather get it signed. If I'm being honest.
All right, so signed is DianeFranklin.com, but if you want to just buy it, it's going to be much cheaper than you get it on Amazon. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Is writing something that you actually enjoy doing now, or does it sometimes feel like a bit of a?
Oh, I love writing, and I probably will write a couple of more books. I have thoughts on doing those. I always had the image. The one thing I would say is, I had a vision of having these books, if you do get them, that they kind of look good together, and they're common in structure. I always had the idea of like sort of a coffee table book idea. But I have a lot of other things to write. So, and it seems that every 5 years I go, I have something else to write, or it takes me a little while to do it. But I really do enjoy writing. And I don't know. Somebody even said to me, well, what if I wrote a book, like a novel or a script, And so I have ideas for that too. It will come. It'll come.
Oh, nice. Well, I hope you'll keep us updated on that.
Oh, thank you.
You did mention that, you did like a video chat with Curtis and stuff. You do seem to be friends with much of the cast, and we're talking 40 years later here. People like Amanda.
Yeah.
Is it just at the cons, or do you try and meet up wherever you can outside of the movie kind of vibe itself?
Sometimes we have seen each other at events. We all are very busy, but we all stay in contact. And for instance, Amanda and I and Savage, we all met in Georgia, in Savannah, at a Better Off Dead tribute at SCAD College. So what happened was we went there and we got together, and then we did videos, and like it was a big theater, and we all like did our talk about the film. There was a moderator, and then we brought like E.G. Daly and Curtis and Aaron Dozier, who played Stalin, and we brought a lot of people, and we brought the artist Bill Kopp, who did the beginning credits. We brought him, so it was really fun. I mean, literally, like that's just so fun when we all get together and say, "I can't believe it has been 40 whatever years, over 40 years." Where we're all bonding. The love is true. And I've even run into John, and, we have a lovely relationship, and he's, I always tell him we should do a Better Off Dead sequel. People want to see us together, so whatever. I keep putting it out there with the hopes. But I do feel like, our Better Off Dead fans are solid, and, getting people a chance to enjoy going back in time.
Well, if you ever come over to Europe, let me know. I'll be there, definitely.
The other thing is, if anyone in the UK has a convention that they would like me to attend, just go to the convention people and tell them that you want me to be there, because a lot of times they need to hear from patrons. But if I say something, or my agent says something to a company, they may be like, well, we don't know, if there's going to be anybody showing up. So remember that for anybody you want to bring, that, you have a lot of power as a patron to bring actors to your neighborhood.
Oh, fantastic. I'm going to get straight onto my local con organizer.
Yeah, right.
You've told so many stories at cons and in your book. So this is probably a tall ask, but do you have any memories from the production that you might not have shared? Can you maybe give us an exclusive on the show or anything like that?
From Better Off Dead?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Well, I will say, since I put the book out, people have come up and said things that I didn't even know. Like, I could even add more now, which was interesting, that I didn't know. Let me see. I'm just trying to think about things that I've heard. Well, I don't know if you know this, but in the scene in the cafeteria, two things. There's a scene in the cafeteria, and there's this big guy, and he's like a redhead. And I think I can't remember what the deal was with him. He was like a friend or something. And he just wound up doing that part. So, I mean, I don't think he was an actor. I think he was a friend. But I do know this. Do you know the table scene where Beth does it with the, the nose and the, something on your nose kind of thing? The girl that Beth was sitting with is Savage's, the director's sister.
Oh, right.
The redhead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, darn it, you knew that. But she, and she's also in the scene when we do the classroom scene and her hair is sticking up when there's this fright thing. I was supposed to be, I really wanted to be in the scene where the hair stuck up, but I couldn't because they wanted me to come in after the scene. But I wanted it so badly. I wanted to do that scene. I wanted my hair to be straight up. That was a funny scene. That was such a smart scene. But I was there and I came in afterwards and yeah. So, I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I'm really
That's
glad
fine.
you asked about it. It's all in the book. Yeah, for now, it's all in the book. I'll have to think about it.
Okay, no problem. A couple of years later, you were cast as Princess Joanna in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Did you audition for the role, or did they come to you? You were obviously in demand at this point, so how did you get that gig, as it were?
Okay, so first of all, you're saying Princess Joanna because in the credits it says Princess Joanna, but the truth is I was actually Princess Elizabeth. And when I got my
Oh,
script, like when we had the script, when I had it, I knew I was Princess Elizabeth. And Kim knew she was Joanna. When we got the script, we knew we were those characters. But in the entire film, the boys never ever say our names.
no.
Which then what happened was when the person did the credits, it was just a guess. They just took a guess with the credits.
Okay.
And so, and the other part of that is like, okay, so like in the part 2, we were replaced. So it's kind of like we're objects, which is not too cool, but
No.
whatever. We'll move on from that. But the name's Princess Elizabeth. So then what happened was I signed all these autographs. That's what it says in the credits, and I didn't want to confuse people. Then when there were more of them, I talked to the writer, Ed Solomon, and he said, no, Diane, it's always been Ted with Elizabeth. And I thought, I better change this. So now I signed Princess Elizabeth. So for the record, and I've tried to change with IMDb also, I am Princess Elizabeth. But yes, it is confusing. Whatever. So how did I get the part? I went in for the audition. Missy, I think. I don't know. I came in, I forgot. I might have been. But I came in, and then while I was there, they said, can you do an English accent? And I said, of course I can talk with an English dialect. I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for, and so I would talk like this. Of course, this probably sounds funny to you. So
honestly, it's a better English accent than I have.
You like it? It's very proper, right?
Yes.
Very proper and forward. Very Julie Andrews and so forth. And so, so I talked like this, and then they laughed. Oh, that's great. Would you consider playing one of the princesses? And I didn't know, because the princesses in the script didn't really have a lot of dialogue. They weren't part of the main group. I didn't even know what that was. And I was like, well, yeah, sure. I don't know what that is, but sure, I'd be interested. So it was kind of like, and I always like this in films. I like this with directors, and Steve Herrick was there. And I like it when a director sees a person and says, I see you as this. That's so exciting for an actor, because an actor goes in, the magic in the moment, anything can happen. I mean, that's what's so fun about casting, is you can say, well, this is what I want that character to be. And then all of a sudden somebody comes in and changes everything. And you're like, wow, like I didn't even see that, but that's a great idea. So actors always do your best, because you just don't know, and go for everything. Go for every audition, even if you think you're not right for it, because you might change that director's mind or casting person's mind or producer's mind. So I wound up auditioning, and that way, and the next day I think I heard, yes, you're going to be a princess. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is funny. Like I never thought I'd play a princess, but I loved the idea of it. And of course the beautiful clothes, and the only other time I sort of came into that world was auditioning for Amadeus. So then I'm wearing the beautiful costume and the outfits there. But, and then the other part was surprising, is how everybody remembered the princesses. I didn't, because they never even said our names. It was amazing that even to this day, people are like, it's the princesses, dude, right?
Yeah.
And we just had a blast shooting it. It was wonderful.
Well, I mean, it took a little longer to be released due to the bankruptcy of the original film distributor. There was talk at some point that people involved had kind of forgotten about it, thinking it was just going to sit on a shelf. So when it was released and it ended up being such a big hit, was it surprising to you?
Well, when it first came out, I don't know if it was as big as a hit as it was as years went by. They really grew in popularity. Um, it was interesting. I mean, talk about rags to riches. I mean, again, that film, it's almost like a film has to find its time. It
Yeah.
has to, you could be a great filmmaker and write a beautiful film, but it may not be the timing that's right. And sometimes holding a film or putting it out and bringing it out. That's what's the great thing about VHSs and DVDs and streaming now, is that everyone now what we're in the world of private and personal taste. So that's such a great, these films live on and on.
Yeah.
So to me, like, I at the time when, even with Better Off Dead, they were all kind of sleepers. The films didn't hit the minute it came out. Then it grew in popularity, and it became again like this magical secret that people are passing to each other. Have you seen this film? Have you seen this film? Even Bill and Ted's 3, which just came out during COVID. And that was a great time for that film to come out because it brought happiness and memories back for people. And the audience was there. And I just heard on social media they might be doing another Bill and Ted's. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy that the franchise is continuing. And believe me, I'm this one. I do not think that I will be in it. I mean, I'm just putting my hands up there, not right now, because so far it hasn't happened. If it did, that would be a huge surprise, and you'll probably hear me screaming. But if it doesn't, well, I'm not counting on that. But people will always go to the original, and that's what matters, and that makes me very happy.
Yeah. I mean, you've occasionally gone back to horror over the years. Most recently with Waking Nightmare and Pareidolia. How did those come about, and what was the experience?
Well, those films, now back to horror, it is where the drama is. So to me, as an older woman, stories are about younger people usually, because those are the ones probably who have seen those movies and films. Although streaming now and television series are bringing back, older actors, more mature actors. So for me, getting back into it, I knew that the roles that I'd be able to show my talent. See, horror has a lot of emotion in it. If you're in like a police show, there's it's very a lot of exposition and a lot of like, where was he? He was here, he was there, he did this at this location, and da 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 da. So there's not a lot of necessary acting challenge within that. Procedurals, you know what I'm saying? Emotion. It might be undertoned emotion, but it's just different. With horror, that is why I kind of was like, oh, this is an interesting genre. And it can it's something that I think as an actor, I could really bring something to. So I wound up, people contacted me and they asked me if I was interested in doing films, and they knew my work. And I was kind of very impressed that people who watch Better Off Dead and Bill and Ted's came to me and said, I want you to do a horror film. That's like with Waking Nightmare. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And the role is incredibly juicy. If that film was sent for awards, I would have probably won an award. Oh, I did not expect this. And I loved working on that film. On the other side, I actually did Pareidolia, and that I did in the UK, people. There is a organization called a production company, Misty Moon Gallery, along with Cucumber Films, and they asked me to come and do a short. It's called Pareidolia. I had only done one other short before. I don't usually do shorts, but the script was so intriguing because Pareidolia is what it means is like when you look in a cloud and you see a face. Like that subject matter or you look at wood and you see a knot in the wood of a face, that has never been made into a horror film. So to me, I was excited to do that. And I did the film, and I actually just won my first Best Actress award at a film festival just
Oh, nice.
recently. So Yeah, just in this, past month or so. So I just want to say, um, my career is surprising me because I'm getting the chance to do so many challenging roles, and I enjoy it. I really look for films interesting, and I look for roles that are interesting, and I like working with new filmmakers. That's what with Paradolia, I was working with a new filmmaker, and his dad was an amazing writer, and the Truss, I think Aiden Truss and Aaron Truss, and Aaron was directing, and it was just experimenting while we were working. And I think that's the thing to me. Also on film, you have a lot of chances to explore and play. Obviously, with television, it's a little bit more set and dry, and do this to tell the story and move it forward. But who knows? Who knows where I'll wind up? I have no expectations. I don't know. I just love to act.
That's what I was going to ask you. What's up next? Do you have any projects you're currently working on that you can share details with?
I have a couple of them. I have a series that I'm doing that's coming out next year. Riding with Pride, and it's going to come out. I think that's the name of it. It's coming out next fall. That's going to be probably an internet show series. And I did a movie called Vampire, which, if you like Better Off Dead, I think you're going to like this. It's very kind of funny. I'm in this film, and it will harken back to Monique. I think you will enjoy. And I'm also doing another movie this in February. Just a small part, a cameo in another kind of super outer space kind of film. So I'm excited about that. But these are like little cameos, compared to, say, Waking Nightmare, which was the full film, and I have a legit character that goes from beginning to end. But we'll see. I have another. There's another film project that I'm supposed to be in. That if that goes, it'll be horror as well. But I play a character you've never seen me play before, so that's kind of like what I like. I like surprising my audience.
Oh, fantastic. You've been involved in so many projects over the years. Looking back, so far, what's been the most memorable, the most enjoyable thing that you've ever worked on?
Well, I have to say Better Off Dead. But I also really enjoyed, I have to say, I love Better Off Dead the most because it was a really fun film, and it was fun to shoot, and everybody had a good time. I mean, it's a comedy, so people are laughing, and we traveled, and it was very exciting. But I've done a lot of films where the experience was exciting. Like when I did a movie called Second Time Lucky, I traveled to New Zealand to shoot. And that was an amazing life experience. And I played an amazing character that time traveled. But the film it's not that good. But although some people might really like it. So it mixes. I can only say it's Benny Hill and Gone with the Wind. That's that explanation. But again, that was an amazing experience. Working on Amityville was amazing because it was the first horror film I ever did, and it was very raw. I liked how I had to push myself, and it got very emotional. I like it's a good film, and I don't mind going to the dark side. I like those films. And then, I mean, Last American Virgin, classic. I mean, yes, everyone hates me, and as you should. I've seen the film. I hated myself, so I completely get it.
It's a bit of a downbeat ending, that one, yeah.
But it's a timeless film. That story is over and over again. So I really feel I'm very glad I did it because it will live forever. You can't not have that movie. That movie meant so much to so many people. It's a deep movie, and it gets you, and you remember it, and you watch it again because it does a lot. It's about sex. It's about love, about growing up. There's a lot to it. So, and Terrorvision is my great punk movie. It's very fun. I got to play a punk rocker, and I loved it. And I had a machine gun, and it was like totally something I would never do, but it was super fun because, again, I'm playing a character I would never do. I have a lot of different films. So it's hard for me to say, but my heart is with Better Off Dead because it is closest to who I am. I have to say, if anything, I'm close to Monique, and I say kick ass, and go after your dreams, and all you need is a small taste of success, and you will find it suits you. So.
And finally, it's something I always ask, I guess, on Cult Classics. Do you, Diane Franklin, do you have a favorite cult movie? And it can be of any genre. Is there something that you always go to?
Oh, that's a good one. Wow. I do. I mean, so there's another thing. Do you have Mystery Science Theater?
I adore Mystery Science Theater. I love that.
Well, I don't have a favorite, but I really love watching Mystery Science Theater because I love the monster movies and the giant spiders and the giant, I think that those movies really are inspiring, and I love some of the comments are very funny, but yes. I use that show to relax. And I think I don't, a lot of times people binge watch television shows, but as an actor, it's very hard for me to enjoy them because I see it as an actor. So it's harder for me to just enjoy. But the Mystery Science Theater is very fun. It just makes me laugh, makes me happy. And like certain television shows, like What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah.
I used to love, I like that show, which is not the movie, but the TV show. I watched that, and the humor. I think we're watching humorous things. Best of Show was a film that I really liked. Do you know Best of Show?
Yeah, Christopher Guest.
Yes. So I would love to have worked with Christopher Guest. I mean, amazing, if that could ever have happened. But so I think the things I do, I like those light things. But then again, dark, my gosh, like dark films. I also like things that are very deep, and I don't know. I have a wide range of things I enjoy, but those are my go-to. Mystery Science Theater, I'll say, is the answer.
Oh, a woman after my own heart. So, yeah, thank you, Diane. It's really been an honor speaking today and answering our exhaustive list of questions. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to spend time. And so thank you for that.
Because it's always a pleasure to talk to someone who appreciates these films. And to be remembered is just so special. It makes me feel so special. So I will never forget my fans. They're always wonderful, and we are friends, as Monique would say. We are friends.
Okay. So thank you out there for joining us on this special episode. If you'd like to see what we thought of Diane's movie, Better Off Dead, hint, we like it. Please take a look at the episode, link in the description below, and hopefully we'll see you next time on Cult Classics. Until then, once again, a big thank you to our guest, Diane Franklin. Good night, everyone, and peace.
Au revoir.
You have been listening to the Cult Classics Show, part of the Silver Screen Podcast, created, written, and hosted by DK. With special guest, Diane Franklin. Produced by Mike Wilson. Editing by Nick. Opening credits by Ian Sanderson. Music by Timeless Journey. Follow us on social media. Links to all of our social media pages can be found on our link tree. This podcast is part of the Mike's Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Silver Screen Podcast or Mike's Podcasts. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you next time. And remember, no matter where you go, there you are.